crazy just excess.
Yeah.
And to me, the peak of this is like, okay, so we have so many songs from so many different like things that we're trying to do that we have 2 albums.
Yeah.
And most people would be like, okay, so we're going to put out a double album.
Yeah.
Called Use Your Illusion.
2.
Also. But they did not do that.
No.
They were like, we're going to put out Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2 as 2 separate albums.
That's right.
At the same time.
Yep.
So you got to buy both of them.
That's
and
what
guess
you do.
what? You're going to buy both of them because we're Guns and fucking Roses. Okay?
And what did people do?
They bought both of them.
They bought both.
They bought both of those. It's so fucking crazy. Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 both sold like 5 million copies like the day that it came out.
Yeah.
It's just insane. This is just this is just such excess in the music industry.
It's
Not only the music itself, which is becoming way bigger, and you know, there's obviously Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, there's great stuff on these albums.
Yeah.
But the sound is so much different.
Yeah.
You got keyboards, you got strings, you got...
Yeah, I would say a little bit more refined on the gun and on the rose. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not a gunsmith and I don't know, I'm not a florist. But please put in the comments, what's the most refined gun and refined rose that you can find? Because these 2 albums were freaking bangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They absolutely were. And it just, I don't know, it's just so funny. Like, the whole thing is just so, it's just such an example of excess. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I think of the whole time. It's like, we have to make the biggest possible albums that we can, with the biggest drug intake still, besides Steven, obviously. Actually, I think Izzy got sober around this time.
Yeah.
Anyway, and we gotta have the biggest music videos. We're talking about millions of dollars spent on these music videos.
You know how you know it was excess? Let me just break down Axl's wardrobe around this time. Let's start from head to toe. Axl had a flat ironed hairdo, okay? Flat iron, they brought that out. Sometimes he had glasses on. Sometimes he had a suit jacket. And sometimes he had on really fitted, tapered jeans with a hole to let you know he's about that life. But it went from t-shirts and messed up leather boots to suit jackets and glasses.
It's biker shorts that are way too short.
With a fur coat.
Yeah.
You gotta do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
So they put out the Use Your Illusions 1 and 2. And again, the music is great. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there were some tracks that weren't amazing between the 2 of them. I think if they had just put out the highlights from both as Use Your Illusion,
yeah,
I think it probably would have done better, to be honest.
Right, I think so too.
And it would have had more staying power, I think, because to this day, Appetite for Destruction has a staying power.
Yeah.
I mean, I've probably listened to that album all the way through just as much as any other album that I've listened to.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Whereas Use Your Illusions, there's certain songs that I'll listen to a lot.
Right.
But I don't know, how many times have you really listened to both of them all the way through?
No, not a lot. But I will listen to like November Rain all the time. I'll listen to Don't Cry. Don't Cry, all right, so Use Your Illusion. So Axl was dating this girl way back in the day, and then she's just like, she calls him all of a sudden. He's past the debut of the first album, and she's like, you know, my brother's coming to town and he's looking to sing, and it just happens to be Shannon from Blind Melon. And Shannon from Blind Melon shows up for background vocals. He's just hanging out with Axl, and Axl's like, hey man, I love your voice, man. You want to do some background vocals on this little ditty I'm working on? It's a small album, not a big deal.
No big deal.
And Shannon shows up, and he's actually in the video, the helicopter scene at the top for Don't Cry. You can see him there, which is weird because as a kid, I never noticed him. And Blind Melon kind of came around the same time.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
And I didn't know he's in the video, though.
Damn, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty
he
cool.
and Duff kind of have similar voices, so they like blend in with that haunting kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened. I didn't know about that. That is a thing. It did happen. And the Use Your Illusion albums sell great.
Yeah.
So what do? You go on tour.
Yes.
And we're talking about excess here. So what are we going to do? We're going to have the biggest, longest tour that's ever fucking existed. We're going to be on tour for like 3 years. We're going to circle the globe twice.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's just getting so big that it's just bound to fall apart.
Yeah.
And like we were saying before, like the entire time that this band existed, there was a feeling like it could fall apart at any moment, which is kind of what made it so good.
Yeah.
But now it's like, and Duff was saying at this point, it's just a fucking machine.
Yeah.
There's just so much, like, I mean, you're employing hundreds of people. There's so much money involved with this. It's like, now it's like not even, you know, it's not really fun as much anymore. Now you're just getting pushed along. Like, you got to do this. You got to do this.
Right.
That's how Duff said that he felt at the time.
Yeah. What's the briefing like for these meetings? It's like, hey, if you are ever thinking of having a life of value, family, kids, retirement.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
We're Geffen Records and we own you. No. So at this point, not only do they have a new drummer,
yeah,
but Izzy is sober and he's getting real sick of everybody else being completely fucked up all the time.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know what? I'm done with this.
Yeah.
This is just too. And again, he was always been like a quiet kind of guy.
Right.
And they're the biggest band in the world. There's eyes on them, ears on them, everything. There's this whole machine wrapped around them. He's like, I'm out. Mm-hmm. I just don't want this to be my life anymore.
Yeah.
Which I respect. That must have been really hard for him to do.
Yeah.
But he did it.
He definitely did. And the band was definitely getting fragmented. You know, Axl makes that speech on stage talking about heroin abuse, and it's like Duff and Slash to kind of feel away.
Oh, I almost forgot about that. They were opening for the Stones, right?
Yeah, and they were talking about, I think they were about to sing Mr. Brownstone.
Yeah.
And it's Axl's just like, oh, we got to address an issue here with people fucking around with Mr. Brownstone. And then Slash has to come out and admit it. And Slash said, like, at that moment, it used to be them against the world, like, as a band. And I can understand that, like, thought process. And he's like, when Axl just decides to get up on stage and say that to the crowd about them on stage, he was like, that's when...
Yeah, that's a fucking dick move, guy.
Yeah.
To say that. 'Cause, he was like, if some of these people don't stop messing around with Mr. Brownstone, this might be the last Guns N' Roses concert you ever see.
Yeah.
It's like, say that to them not on stage.
Right.
Like, why you gotta do that?
Yeah.
Like, I would be fucking upset.
Yeah.
And again, this is what I was saying before. It's clearly at this point, it's just like, how much shit are you willing to put up with from Axl to continue to be in the band? Is really what it became.
Yeah.
But at the time, it seemed like it was kind of a good move because the band did get its shit together a little more.
Right.
Before they went on this huge tour.
Exactly.
So then Izzy left.
Yeah.
He got replaced by Gilby Clarke, right?
Yeah.
So now the members are starting to drop.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's becoming like Chicago.
It's becoming like Chicago. Shout out to the band Chicago. They're great.
Check out our podcast on Chicago.
Yeah, check out our Chicago podcast. Check out our podcast on Chicago the band and also Chicago the city. Woohoo.